What's up, brothers? Hope everyone's doing well out there. Back at you again with another nighttime video. And in tonight's conversation, I wanted to discuss this topic that's been gaining a lot of popularity recently. And what I'm seeing is a bunch of content creators, mostly male content creators, who are basically claiming that they're done with dating. And then, you see a clash over on the female side. Females are kind of making fun of them and saying that nobody wanted you to begin with. Right? That type of deal. So, I want to cut into this topic a little bit and share my opinion on it. Now, the first thing that I want to say is, when men say they're done with dating, that doesn't mean they're done with relationships. It doesn't mean they're giving up on starting families. It doesn't mean anything like that. It just means they're done with dating. Okay, and I think a lot of them have a hard time verbalizing this, so that's what I'm going to try to do in this video. Now, there's a little bit of an unwritten rule that men are starting to understand about dating, and you've probably heard people say this in the past. If not, you're going to hear it now, but the only winning move is to not play. In regards to dating, the only winning move is to not play. That's what men are starting to realize. Again, like I said, relationships are fine. Families, fine. Dating, not good. Let me explain why. And this is the part that a lot of people have a hard time verbalizing. This is the dating experience for a man who's actually dating. Okay? It could be with your wife, it could be with your girlfriend, it could be a woman that you just met, somebody on Tinder that you're taking out on a first date, whatever. Typically, you have to find a nice little venue to go to. You might just go to dinner, but typically you want to go out and have a good time. So you find a nice venue with good music that you like, a good time. You can kind of go out and party a little bit. So you find the venue, you pick her up, you drive to the venue, you park, you pay her $10 to park or whatever. And then you walk to the front door and you wait in line. Right, so you wait in line. It's not the greatest experience, but you do what you have to do. Then finally you get to the door. And when you get to the door, there's some 7-foot monster, roided up, standing there. And he looks at your girl and he says, "You're good." And he throws her a compliment, compliments her looks a little bit. "You're good, looking good tonight. You can go in." And then he looks at you, the man, and he says, "That'll be $20 for you, dirtbag." Maybe it's not that harsh. Sometimes it's not that harsh. Sometimes it's even more harsh than that. But I'm not talking about the words here. It's the action. And the action is she gets in free, and the man has to pay $20 to get in, $25, sometimes higher, to get in. Now, everybody knows this is true. They have ladies' night and, things like this happen. And we've just grown to expect it. This is the norm. But every man knows when he's at the front door and his girl can go in for free, and he just has this cuckoning moment, this humiliating moment where it's like she can go in and have all the fun she wants, but I'm so unwanted here that I have to pay. And that's the way the system is set up. That's the way the dating market is set up. Men are not wanted there. Okay, just like this venue. Why do they have this set up? Because women are wanted there. Hot women are wanted there. Men are not wanted there. So they put a paywall there to prevent at least broke men from coming in. And by the way, they don't want alphas in there. They don't want charismatic chads in there. They don't want pickup artists in there. No, they want guys in there that will spend their money, guys that will fork out their cash. So they want a bunch of women. They'll fill the place to maximum capacity with women, and they'll let a few guys in, you know, a few suckers in to come in and blow all their money. And men finally started to wake up. You know, they finally started to understand that they go out there and they're not wanted. It has literally nothing to do with women. Okay, it's not all these people that are trying to make it a man versus woman thing. That's stupid. You know, nobody ever tried to make it that. Nobody's saying it's that. There's some people, but they don't count. They're stupid people. You know, the gender war is a nasty grift. That's nasty work. The people that are involved in that, whether they're men or women, it's not good. You know, I'll tune into that type of stuff sometimes. Not good. Not a good grift, right? But nonetheless, men are waking up and they realize in this system they're not wanted. Okay, and this isn't my opinion. Literally, last Saturday night, I went out, and that's exactly what happened. It's what happens every time I go out. And when you realize that the system is set up in a manner that they want your girlfriend there, imagine if you went to a party, you know, with some friends or something. Imagine your girlfriend invites you to a party, and you show up at the door, and the dude throwing the party's like, oh, fucking Melissa, come on in. You know, it's been a while. Haven't seen you. You're looking sexy tonight. And then they look at you and they're like, nah, you can't come in. I'll tell you what. Give me $25 and you can come in. Right? That would be bullshit, right? Imagine if you walked into a nightclub and the nightclub said you could go in as a man, and they're like, your girlfriend? Nah, she can't come in. I'll tell you what, we'll let her in if she pays $25. How's that? You'd be like, fuck off, dude. Get out of here. Or we're getting out of here, I should say. Fuck off. But you know, this is just the way the system is set up. Now, is this a problem? I don't think so. You know, a problem would be getting drafted to Vietnam. This is just a basic social issue. And this is why men are making a choice, and they're saying that the winning move is to not play. They don't want to date anymore. Okay, it's not a good time. Last Saturday, I went out, and like I said, that's what happens at the door. I'm walking out, you know, like afterwards, and, you know, shots ring out. I mean, police all over the place. And even in that situation, it's like I have to stand and cover her and make sure she doesn't get hit, right? So that's date night. That's no fun, right? That's not an enjoyable situation. Why do it? You know, and that's a situation like that applies to men that are actually able to get a date. Okay, that's men that are, you know, alphas or chads or like high value. These are guys that are able to get women, right? So we have a whole separate issue with guys that are struggling to even meet women. These guys aren't typically the ones making videos saying they're done with dating. You know, these guys are, you know, hopeful, and they wish they could get a date, and they're trying to, you know, figure out what they need to do. Do they need to look smacks? Do they need to learn bad boy game type stuff. What do they need to do? They're trying to work things out, and people are mocking them when it's the guys that are actually getting dates that are complaining about it. So it doesn't make any sense, right? No mosquitoes tonight. Stay gone. It's a pretty dry night, so there's not a lot of them out here, but there's a couple, I guess. So, that's a whole separate issue, guys that can't even get a date, right? And that is a big issue. But there's another issue, and this has to do with where society is heading. I don't want to go down this type of a rabbit hole, but technology is changing. There's not going to be as many jobs for as many people anymore. It's kind of certain agendas that have been moving pretty quickly. It's like a abominable, unstoppable snowball rolling downhill. And we see the concept of family slowly deteriorating. We're seeing these changes. We're seeing, to some degree, levels of hypergamy going out of control, right? For some women, not all, but for some women, dating is like buying a new cell phone, right? If you walk into AT&T or T-Mobile or whatever, and you want a new cell phone, maybe you want the iPhone Pro with the big screen, 512 gigabytes, rose gold. And they say, well, we're sold out of that one, but we can sell you the smaller screen or the 128 gigabyte or a regular iPhone, or you can wait 3 weeks for the one you want. Well, for a lot of women, that's sort of an approach that they have in dating, right? This guy already has a girlfriend, but maybe if she waits a little while and flirts with him a little bit, maybe she can get him, or she can have this guy right now or this regular iPhone guy over here. And look, some women will take that regular iPhone and they'll say, you know what, I'm actually satisfied with this one. I'm actually good with this one. I don't need to upgrade. But, a lot of them are holding out for that 512 gigabyte, right? 512 gigabyte GigaChat. So that's another thing, but we're also seeing an emergence of what people call avoidant attachment styles, but really this is just a byproduct of dating and people becoming relationship avoidant. So I would not look at it as an attachment style. Like, don't go down that avoidant and attachment style rabbit hole. Just view it as relationship avoidant. Okay, a lot of people are relationship avoidant. Most of the single women I know, they're not, going out and whoring out the way people act like they are. Some are, but, most of them aren't. They're not, hooking up with men left and right. But they are relationship avoidant. To give you an example, let's say like an average American woman, a 28-year-old. She's educated. She is career driven, works full time, single, independent type of woman, has a really nice apartment, lives by herself, has one really close girlfriend, maybe has a guy that is like a friend with benefits type of deal. She calls him her boyfriend, but really it's like they don't live together, they're not committed, so it's just a friend with benefits, a glorified friend with benefits, you could say, right? And that's why they're relationship avoidant, because they're completely content being where they're at, right? Having privacy and freedom of living alone with all the benefits of a relationship. And if they need companionship, they can get on their phone and you'll text them and you'll call them on the phone or whatever. But that happens Again, because of dating. A lot of people, when we say men are giving up dating, this is what we're talking about. It doesn't mean they're giving up relationships. They still want relationships. They're giving up dating because dating causes, it's the cause of this because, let's put it like this, the people that don't date, and there is a select group of people that don't date, and instead they get in relationships. And when they get in relationships, they learn a skill that stays with them for life. And if you learn this skill in your developmental years between 18 to 25, you're probably going to be really good at relationships. If you don't, you're probably going to suck at relationships. It's just true. It means you have to work on it if that's what you want. But this skill comes from, there's a few pathways. One pathway would be growing up with a good family, 2 parents, siblings, all living in a house together. And, you turn 18, maybe you go to college, you go to the military, and you have roommates either way. Maybe you're at a college dorm with 3 roommates and all of you got girlfriends and you're all living together and shit. You can learn that skill that way. But the most common way is, when you're 19 years old or so, getting an apartment, you and your girlfriend, and, I'm talking 1-bedroom apartment, just a bedroom, a bathroom, a kitchen, a living room, that's it. No privacy, lots of bills, not a lot of money, but you find a way to make it work, right? You'll learn a skill by doing that. You'll learn how to be in a relationship. And you'll learn how to, as people say, pair bond and all that. But a lot of people are skipping over that step, and this is why I was speaking of the agendas and stuff. And I'm not even going in some weird route here. I'm just saying this is what's happening. It's a snowball rolling downhill. Both men and women are getting educated at a college level, or at least a vocational school level. They're becoming professionals. And in order to do that, usually those 18 to 25 years are spent focusing on yourself. You're not focusing on relationship skills. You're not focusing on family building. You're focusing on yourself and your career. And what happens is you find yourself 25 years old with 0 relationship experience, and now you're making good money, you're enjoying your life single, and you realize that in order to get the relationship, you're going to have to give up all this privacy. You've never had to share a bedroom or a bathroom and a kitchen, and that's hard to do, right? It's hard for people to do that. And you don't want to do that. The women don't want to do that. So these people that are still single beyond the age of 25, 26 years old, that's kind of the boat that they're in, right? It's kind of this jump that a lot of people aren't taking. So again, what happens is they jump back out there and they want to date. They think dating is the normal thing to do. But men are starting to understand that it wasn't the normal thing to do. And they had no idea how much of a sham it actually was when they were doing it. I bet you a lot of you guys watching this video, you've been to a nightclub and you go through that. You never really think anything of it, right? She gets in free and you have to pay. You never thought anything of it. But now that you think about it, now that you see this is literally a sham, this is taking place because I'm not wanted here. She is wanted here. If she goes in without me, other men spend money on her. The facility gets more money. The company gets more money. So they have this system in place that's meant to screw me over. It's meant to let me know that they don't want me here. I'm not really welcome here. They don't like me. And you know, guys go through this in damn near every aspect of life, right? When we understand that this is taking place, and you just realize how cuckoning it is, and how humiliating it is. You know, when you walk up to a door and she can go in and they're like, hey dickhead, hey fuckhead, you gotta pay. It's humiliating. When you think about it, every guy knows you get a weird feeling when you do that. You're kind of like, God, I don't like doing this. I don't like handing you my money while you just let her in. It's kind of weird. It's like, it's disrespectful, you know? And it's not that I'm like trying to be like, tell people to be cheap, like you should tip your servers and all that, but it's just a weird feeling, right? Like, you know, she's wanted here and you're not. A man that respects himself should say, fuck this, I'm out, right? And the worst thing is the mainstream is grabbing this subject matter. You know, discussions about like the male loneliness epidemic and stuff, right? And what they're saying is like, yeah, guys are swiping on apps and they have to swipe 200 times just to get one match. And it's like, oh, some, yeah, but who cares? But when they come up with their solutions, and honestly, I commend them for trying. I commend them for actually attempting to speak up, but the solutions are laughable. Or what they think the causes are laughable, I should say. They just don't have any positive male role models. So they're finding manosphere guys. Their fathers were absent. They're not picking the right careers and making enough money to support a family and buy a house. Fuck off, dickhead. I'll pick my own role models. It's your father's fault. Fuck off, man. Not my father's fault, big dog. Like, they just don't get it. They don't get the social dilemma that we're in right now. They have no clue. Because the people in the mainstream are mostly millionaires, mostly extremely good looking. That's why they're in the mainstream. They get paid big bucks because they have very good looking faces, and they are talking heads on the screen, but they don't really know what they're talking about. But nonetheless, you know, it's interesting to get into. And yeah, you know, suppose that's about it. But like I said, guys aren't necessarily giving up relationships. I think most guys still want relationships and they want families. It's just this whole concept of dating. Why? You know, why would a man bother? Even if you're like a like really devout religious type, wouldn't dating be kind of against your principles and your morals? Isn't it like you going out with some stranger to party together and probably hook up with each other? Like, isn't there probably a more efficient way than that? I don't know. Camera shut off on me. Yeah, so anyways, you know, a lot of guys have this belief because they're getting pulled into this male versus female thing. And I hear a lot of guys, typically guys that aren't even really involved, like they're not even, you know, they're not even playing the game at all. And they want to say things like they basically believe that any man that has a girlfriend is simping. Any man that gets married is simping. And by the way, the whole system of marriage, not doing men very much justice either. We all know that, right? But there's a lot of guys that think like any man that even wants to start a family is simping, right? Like, you're simping because you're giving in to some sort of female imperative. But that's male imperative too, right? Like, you want a family, you want to reproduce, you want to have women, you want to conquer a lady with the cock, so to say. Excuse my language, but you know, that's a manly thing. But you know, a lot of wires are getting crossed because people are, you know, they're taking in a lot of information without actually living their own lives. My best advice to you, my best solution to you would be, as a man, to figure out what it is you want. If you want to be single, leave them alone. Just stay single. If dating is your thing, like if you're into doing that and you say, yeah, you know what, I don't mind paying that fee. I don't mind going places where I'm not wanted. I still have a good time. Then go for it. You know, if a relationship is your thing, if a family is your thing, the proper way to start a relationship is to understand that there has to be the right type of masculine polarity, feminine polarity. So if you know that this whole dating shit is ridiculous, then use your masculine polarity, aka your leadership, you know, your ability to put your foot down and understand what you want, and explain what you expect, what your expectations are, and what you want out of things. Invite her straight to your place. Invite her to your parents' house. Invite her to whatever, somewhere that will treat you with respect. It doesn't have to be a date. It could be a walk at the park. You know, whatever. But I don't know. I suppose I don't have anything else to say about this topic, but I think I covered everything that I would have wanted to cover. Alright, guys. Guess I'm going to go ahead and shut this one off, but hope this video was somewhat informative. And that's about it for tonight, guys. Until next time, see ya.